fantastic stuff to see. Vampire grabbing himself an MVP against his old team. Man, that's got to feel good for Vampire. The catharsism? Is that a word? It's cathartic. Ah, catharsis. Yeah. I knew it was close to a word. Yeah. You know, I talk for a living. I don't need to know words.
Yeah, you're young and hip. You don't need to know these words anymore. Exactly. I don't know what the heck's going on with these first picks, though. I mean, for one, we've not really picked up the Ashe in either of these two games either, which is a bit of a surprise to me. It's a very powerful pick. Renekton first pick for Solokill, who didn't actually do anything with that last game, is really not what I would like to see from that. On the other side, you know, Neny's going to get himself that Lucian. glfs gets himself that Lily. He was a really important part of that last game. EDG already falling behind in the draft, it feels.
Neny also just getting the very comfortable pick for that mid lane as well. It's so nice to be able to blind that Lucian because it doesn't feel that great to play Yone, it doesn't feel that great to play the Corki. Tristana's gone. And so Cryin goes for the Azir instead, so a bit of a change in tack from EDG. And I wonder if they'll still go for an AP jungler alongside an Azir or maybe change things up.
Yeah.
A Vi would certainly help in terms of just pick a target, go on that target.
Yeah, that's really going to help EDG play out the early game a lot more aggressively too. Vi can very much force plays better than Lilia earlier into the game. Of course, your first player is not as good, and you will be lacking some damage from that jungle. Jiejie had a monstrous amount of damage because he was that brand in that last game. Very different tack from EDG. It's still going towards that Renekton. They're still going to have an early game bias towards that as well. But you've also given Arn over his Kai'Sa. He's been very, very impactful on that. This is a very different draft from what we've seen in the entirety of the LPL. We don't really see that much Azir, and the Vi is becoming a bit more of a rarity as well. We did see a game from BLG, but this is already a very different draft from EDG.
I feel like EDG have looked at what like top esports and BLG were doing in their series and kind of going back to this previous style of AD junglers and AP mid laners. And maybe thinking, well, if it works at the top, maybe it can work for us too. It's certainly a style that the players will be more comfortable with based on what we've seen from them in the modern meta. However, IG very much sticking to what's been working, and I've got to say, I feel like a Rel would work wonders in this composition, but a Nautilus alongside a Kai'Sa in lane, with Vampire just getting an MVP on the Nautilus, maybe just, you know, what's not broken, don't fix. Oh! A Gwen instead!
Okay.
YSKM takes Gwen into Renekton.
You still have YSKM on your roster. You can just pick one of his champions. Last pick, the Vampire, means that he can kind of counterpick the support matchup as well if he particularly wants to. The Gwen is something that the IG have picked out for YSKM just the once, I believe, so far this summer. He got a huge individual lead. Couldn't close it out, though, importantly. So we'll have to see if we can do one better than that. The Gwen does very much deal with the Renekton, though. Once you get towards 2-3 items, it can be a very dangerous matchup. So Solokill, who already had a difficult game one, will need to step up again to make sure that EDG don't just have this black hole of pressure coming out of side lanes in that top lane matchup.
So what support do you want to go, EDG? I feel like the Nautilus certainly works well with a Vi, right? Sets up to potentially, for Vi to follow up, or you can follow up on the Vi. Either way around works out. The Maokai would be an interesting pick. It is going to be locked in here. Gives you that long-range engage for the Vi to follow up on.
Maokai is not the best laning pick, though, which is a bit of a worry. In fact, IG discovered that themselves. They locked in a Maokai support. We don't see it that often, and they ended up getting blasted through that laning phase, which was really not that great. They pick in that Rel, so the Rel Kai'Sa should be definitely able to punish this bot lane again. So Leave and Wink, they will not like to be giving over that same kind of bot lane advantage they did in that first game. Very different style of composition from EDG. This time it's much easier for them to force fights. They have the better amount of play from range as well. They have Ezreal Qs, and they have themselves a lot of team fighting wombo combo potential as well. Maokai ult, Vi ult, there is Azir shuffle as well. IG will need to be careful not to get picked off around the fringes, particularly with how quickly EDG's composition can bounce.
Snap Engage is fantastic. Also, I think the Maokai, really, really nice for just having someone that can cheat vision a little bit, so you don't just have to face check every time. The saplings will buy you so much space, because Vi not the greatest when you have to face check. Renekton, he's kind of tanky, but he's not a true tank, you know? I feel like Maokai shores that weakness up a little bit.
You know, I used to call Maokai the anti-RNG or anti-Xiaohu pick because before Maokai was really meta, we used to see them play the smoke and mirrors gameplay coming out of Fog of War. How do you come out of Fog of War when there's a sapling in every brush? So, IG, who typically go for those teamfight flanks themselves, YSKM would like to be getting himself a dive onto the backline in some points in this game, I'm sure. He'll need to be careful of those saplings, and that maybe changes the way that these teams approach their angles to these teamfights.
It's going to be game number 2 here between IG and EDG. Last time around, 3 of these players were on opposite teams in this matchup. It was IG that won the matchup last time. Let's see if EDG can continue to exact their revenge as we get into game 2.
Ooh, I've just noticed something interesting there. We have an electrocute Lucian in the mid lane. That's not going to be the press the attack. I don't think I've seen that one in pro play so far, so Neny going towards that one. I remember when, do you remember back when the Runes Reforged first came out and we had, I think it was Thunderlord's Decree back then rather than the electrocute. We used to see some of that from, we used to see double Thunderlord's bot lane with like Lucian, Thrash, stuff like that. You get so much burst in the early game. Electrocute was changed recently too. It is a better early game rune. It comes off a cooldown slightly more often. It doesn't scale up as well as it used to, but I want to see how Neny makes the use of that. Maybe that changes the way that you play into the Azir. Cryin used this as a counter pick into the Lucian. Typically the Lucian very good into the Corki. I don't love when the Lucian is blind picked at all times though, because it potentially does mean that you get yourself some worse trades. Immediately using that electrocute though, some good burst comes down.
Electrocute getting buffed. I will say Dark Harvest was also buffed for laning. Yet to really see that come through. I'd be down to see it. Whether or not any players are willing to risk games on it is a different question. But as a pure spectator, I'd be down to see how well that works out. We've seen a little bit of Dark Harvest this split.
Yes, you may take Dark Harvest and into it, and that is a sacrifice I am willing to make.
Exactly. As a ARAM Dark Harvest enjoyer, I don't know about anyone else at home, but me and my friends, when we play ARAM, it's Dark Harvest or nothing. It doesn't matter what you're playing Dark Harvest, and we are racing. It doesn't even matter if we win or lose. Whoever gets the most Dark Harvest stacks, they win.
It's my favorite style of ARAM gameplay. It's this Dark Harvest presence of mind, so you just continually fight with the infinite mana because there are so many kills in that game load. And particularly when you have stuff like Kindred or Kayn or stuff like that, you just throw yourselves at the enemy to get whatever minigame it is your champion has to get the most out of that too. I feel like that is peak League of Legends. That's where I enjoy myself the most. It's none of this Summoner's Rift nonsense. No, none of that. You play for the minigames. That's what they're there for.
Speaking of minigames, Swarm, that's real League of Legends right there. I've been thoroughly enjoying spamming out the Vampire Survivor. I mean, Swarm that's come out recently. Fantastic little game. Well worth a grind. I mean, I pretty much played almost exclusively Swarm yesterday. It was a good time.
It's like the one time I've ever played Briar as well. She's really good at that mode. So I was like, okay, I get to learn. No, you don't really learn anything about those champions. They're completely different from the. When I feel like I'm learning bits and pieces about that.
Yeah, they sort of vaguely resemble the champions, as opposed to really. It's like
this is not. It's like resemblance to League of Legends champions is pure like or other fictional characters is purely like what was the warning they have on those shows of trying to say like, oh, if it's related to anything in real life, it's a complete chance or whatever that is. I feel like they need to have that for League of Legends champions in Swarm because they're just not the same. Early jungle path. Look, we have talked about the early jungle path thing. GLFS gets that level 4 and forces Solokill off tower. This is a bit of a problem because you do have that Renekton who's meant to be lane dominant. Already YSKM gets a wave onto the turret, already out trading early. That's a problem. That Renekton needs to be doing stuff early, otherwise this matchup will fall.
Certainly will, as Vampire dodging a couple of skill shots immediately throws that flare up. That's got to be satisfying for him, especially when he's playing against a player that he was on the same roster as. He's played bot lanes alongside Leave last year. It's very comfortable for him on the rail so far. Very quiet game to start us off, but typically when you see a Vi in the game, level 6 will be the moment where things really start to kick off. Still a couple of levels away from that as Jiejie maybe wants to call me a liar. Moves up towards this top side. I mean, Solokill not going to be level 6. It doesn't feel like a dive angle to me.
I think that feels like a bit of a scouting play where you just get yourself a ward over onto one of the camps, make sure that Solokill's happy to crash that wave. And of course, Vi can force plays at level 3 because you can kind of flash dance like that. Cryin, just the flash dance his way out of this one, maybe. Or just shuffle away.
I've got to say, this electrocute illusion feels pretty good to me. The trades early on in this lane start to really hurt for Cryin. Neny won't be able to find too much in the way of a CS lead here as TP available for Cryin, but Neny smartly just going to leave the wave as it is. It's still pushing towards him as he goes for a TP, grabs a cull.
Right. This is a different Lucian build than one I'm familiar with. Maybe it's been played elsewhere, but this is going to be the tier coming in from Neny. So it's B Muramana, which of course is again very bursty because it applies in each of your abilities. It's going to be lower crit because you're not going to get that into first item. Interested to see now what what that first item is going to be beyond that Muramana. So you see Vampire once again just throw up that flare. Does he? A couple of Qs from Leave, so get some love taps over there. At least this time, the early game hasn't been kind of just decided by EDG, kind of just throwing a couple of mistakes towards this bot.
I have to assume that was Clearlove's advice after the previous game was just don't fight early. You know that Peaky Blinders clip where he's going around there, no fighting, no fighting. We've got Azir, we've got Israel, no fighting. Just wait until later, wait until we got some items. And so far, so good. They get themselves the first Drake of the game. IG will trade that for the grubs, so opposite way around to the previous game.
One of my favorite things about Peaky Blinders, and also Game of Thrones to extent too, Elden Ring's probably in this list, where I feel like a lot of people in terms of like from different cultures, they get experience through British accents very, very differently than the way that we do. Obviously, those two being Brits ourselves, we get the full array of accents our entire life. I feel like shows like Peaky Blinders and Game of Thrones and Elden Ring, it's one of the first games I've heard like proper Welsh accents in. I feel like a lot of people get a new experience of how Brits can sound at times.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, we don't all sound like they do down in London. And to be honest, even in London, they don't all sound like RP, you know? They're not all Cockneys and they're not all RP. There are very, very many accents across
Apparently
the UK.
Cockney has had like irreversible damage to it by the way that it's been presented in Hollywood, because Cockney rhyming slang is in itself a very like specific dialect, because rhyming, you know, apples and pears as stairs and stuff like that. Because of the way that it's been misappropriated in media, it apparently is really, really hard to recover it now from the way that it's been presented worldwide.
I've got to say, I don't think it's something that's really used anymore, like, in earnest. However, I don't know anyone in the UK that doesn't have any Cockney rhyming slang within their dialect, right? Like, apples and
even
pears,
if it's one
dog
line,
and bone.
yeah.
Well, my favourite one is Hank Marvin, which means starving.
Starving,
Like, every single time I'm hungry, I have Hank Marvin. I don't even know who Hank Marvin is.
Me neither. May they live on in infamy or fame, regardless, whatever your opinion is of that one. So, back to this early game. We haven't had huge amounts of action early on. We do have that level 6 for Jiejie now. You can see that glfs is starting to take off in terms of the jungle farm, though, as you do with that Lily. As soon as you get that face dash, you can clear so quickly. Also, checking on that Lucian build is going towards the Dirk first. So it wouldn't surprise me to see even a collect the first item to kind of get that crit. I believe the ultimate from Lucian, it was changed a lot to make sure it favors crit builds as opposed to lethality builds, because there was the build ages ago where you used to go the lethality Eclipse and then also Muramana, and then you go into Cyrilda's. That was a period of all time where he would one-shot you with WR. Not my favorite, but it feels like Neny has found himself his own secret tech to maybe get a really bursty Lucian build out.
It's been working in the lane phase. We'll see if it continues to work for him later on. I am excited to see where this build goes and what he's able to get done. Neny's been a player.
Oh, I'm kind of scared to see where this build goes. Because if it works, other people are going to take inspiration from this.
I mean, look, if it works, I'm okay with people taking inspiration from it. If not, let's not see it again, okay, lads? Let's all just make a gentleman's agreement here that we'll only see it once if it doesn't work. Neny, though, he's been a player of ups and downs this split, where I do feel he's had a couple of really exceptional games, like especially when he first came into the roster, especially when Ari was a little bit more meta. I felt like, okay, Neny is a player. Hang on, Culling. Ow. I thought he was going to step up there and show us that he's still that guy. You know, when Ari was in the meta, I feel like Neny had some really, really fantastic games. He's had a couple of really good Yone games as well, but does feel a little limited as Leave engaged upon Arn trying to get that plasma down, flashes forwards, one more auto will do the trick. The minions might finish Leave off, but he gets into the brush, and now Arn is caught. Here comes Jiejie to save the day, and first blood is taken for EDG.
And Vampire tries to make the big play, but he doesn't quite manage to kill Leave, who escapes on what must have been double-digit HP throughout that trade. The first ult of the game from Jiejie gets good value. He gets himself a first kill, and that's really important. It means that IG don't get themselves that easy snowball through that bot lane as they did in that first game. Very, very close to working out. IG showcasing how lethal they can be in this bot lane laning phase. Leave does have his E. He gets stunned, though, before that E manages to go through. He doesn't manage to quite get himself away from that cube. Very, very quick. Gets the R flash out of there. Wink just about saving his life. 10 HP! 10 HP just at the very last double digit there. Almost into the single digits as Jiejie then saves the day.
A slightly better flash from Arn, and that is first blood for IG, I think. Pretty unfortunate from him as the player that we often talk about for IG. But EDG will be very happy with Jiejie getting first blood, a positive first play. And again, that's we talked about the kind of early laning mistakes from EDG in the previous game. It was almost the same again. It's YSKM now in a 1v2 and nearly finishes Solokill. The needle work. Can he find the snipe? Flash from Solokill as Jiejie goes in. YSKM, no ultimate now, but the snip does big damage. That's a flash forced, but enough CC. Jiejie all over the board.
He gets himself a kill on both sides of the map. YSKM has that ignite. He is very, very scary. Leave gets tagged. He doesn't have a cleanse. This could be an ult, and indeed it is.
CC chains coming on through onto Leave. Back-to-back plays here. This time it works out. Leave, even on that Ezreal, not playing safe enough.
He was on the weak side, and for the second game in a row, Leave on the weak side of the map gets found out by enemy jungler, and a combo comes in shortly after that point. EDG, even the last game, Jiejie was trying to snowball as best he could in the early game. EDG as a team, so much about how Jiejie gets them rolling in the early game, and then it's trying to hand over towards Leave in the later game team fights. It feels like it might have to be that kind of situation again. GLFS gets a kill bot side, and he's going to snap up two camps very quickly at that point. Jiejie does have the gold lead through those 2 kills, but that farm is really not going to be something you can contest as a Vi versus that Lilia.
No, definitely not. The fact that he's only 100 gold up off of first blood and the second kill as well kind of tells you everything about this matchup. We'll be down in XP almost a full, in fact slightly over a full level. Oh no, not anymore. Just finished the camp. Yeah, fantastic farming from GLFS, and at least he got an assist on that play on the bottom side. So, Neny, let's just have a little recap on this build. There's going to be that opportunity finished off first. You can see he's on his way to a Mana Moon as well. See how this Lucian build continues to develop and how much burst damage he's going to be able to do. Like, I will say, if he catches someone alone in a side lane, he is going to wreck them.
He is going to one-shot the Munch. This is a very bursty build. I believe Opportunity was also nerfed for ranged champions recently too, because too many AD carries were building it effectively. We had the Kalista and we had the Varus all go towards this.
Real monster.
Caitlyn was also a problem. Yes, this is a non-exhausting list. There are many people who ended up abusing this one. Jace as well with the shock blast. So this is not even the full powered item in regards to that. So worth noting was also as well that Cryin goes for the Leandries first, doesn't go towards the Nash's Tooth, maybe just wanting that extra HP component to make sure he has a little bit more brawn to survive through some of those burst trades. It's not the full tank Seer, it's no Grasp, which we saw from Scout the other day, as they took down BLG. That was a great series, go back and watch that if you have the time, folks. Even if you don't have the time, watch it anyway. It was really good. But Cryi's still going to get himself a bit more HP. Herald is up. This could be our first big fight of the game. Level 11 hit by Cryin, the second tier of that ultimate, and Solokill as well having that, which means that maybe ID just want to stay away from those solo lanes.
IG decide that they want to forego the Herald and forego their bot lane simultaneously there, as they won't contest either objective. It will be Solokill forced away as Vampire toyed the idea of they play if Solokill continue to push. Jiejie moving up to this top side and immediately just slams that Herald down, trying to inject some gold into this Azir on the top side. I mean, Cryin already off to a 400 gold lead with the CS lead he's built for himself. The tower going down as well. This Azir is starting to get a little bit accelerated.
Yeah, and you know, you've gone towards that Leandris first. You don't necessarily have all of your core items just yet. I don't know whether he wanted that one. Yeah, I think that's a misclick. I think he wanted to walk forwards, and okay, well, I don't think it had enough HP to make it towards that turret anyway. Realistically, GLFS also had Smite, but still, maybe we consider bringing back the driving test again for these Heralds. We've had a couple of great ones. That's not one of them.
Yeah, not ideal for Cryin, but hey, they got their tower. They got the tower they were looking for. That true shot barrage, was that just blind? Was there even a wall?
I was quite impressed by it. I was going to let you finish. I was also very impressed with that. So
yeah, it's just a random punt in the river and hits the shot. I mean, that's pretty good going. I don't know if he was spotted on a ward before that I just missed or something, but if not, that is...
Reminds me of... did you ever play the Mass Effect games?
Not really, though, to be honest.
So, okay, alright. So there is a point.
Memes, I don't know if that counts.
Okay, well, so one of the better voice lines in that game is basically some military blokes talking to each other. The sergeant's like, you know, like shouting at his troops saying that this is, when you fire something in space, it keeps going for forever. This is why we don't eyeball the target, because even if you miss that target, someone behind there at some point in time is going to have a very, very bad day as this thing plummets through space.
Yeah.
I feel like that's exactly the same kind of thing that can happen with a good Ezreal. What happens when they leave the rift?
I feel like that there's a similar modern issue with TikTok, where people just shoot into the air and like yeet things into crowds and whatnot for the views.
That a thing?
Oh yeah, big time.
Wow.
What goes up typically does come down. That is sort of how it all works. Newton famously was of that opinion.
Oh, that's a deep dive.
Oh my goodness, Jiejie is so far in for this play, but he's managed to survive and flash back out. That's a three-man sleep for IG, and Arn dives in to make it work. Solokill tries to flash on him, but it doesn't work, and here comes the Gwen. It's a good little shuffle from Cryin, and it's an absolute mess of a fight, but IG prove that they've got the hands. Cryin will fall. Forget the hands, it's all about the scissors this time.
IG went out through the first big fight of the game. EDG, I thought they'd managed to catch off Neny. I thought they'd managed to take down Vampire as he tried to delay the rest of the team, but somehow GLFS gets himself a godlike ultimate and manages to completely ruin this team fight for EDG. We'll watch it back again. Neny, he shows the problem with Vi. If you have the ability and you have a flash, you tear him apart. This Swell Seed is absolutely godlike. Gets a three-man ultimate off of an unassisted Swell Seed onto two people there. Arn knows he can thread the needle. It's one of the things that we praised for him. And GLFS on this Lily have shown once again how much value you can have on this pick. Cryin is a decent shuffle, but it doesn't really get him what he wants after that point. I'm going to imagine his passive was on cooldown, otherwise he should have put that tower up earlier. And sadly for EDG, they find themselves losing again another big grouped up team fight, which IG have just had the better of them in.
That feels like quite an important fight this game as well. When you're playing a Byron-Ecton composition, you are inevitably sort of on a clock to some extent. Find one of those champions that the engage is always good towards the late game still, but you don't always survive those engages. Renekton similarly, the flanks are very powerful, but it's whether or not you can survive long enough to make it work for your team. IG winning that fight though turns things a little bit pear-shaped for EDG. They were snowballing, they were building a lead for themselves, but now IG have two Drakes, they've closed that gold gap. In fact, they're slightly ahead in gold. It's all suddenly feeling quite nice for IG, and I just want to quickly mention GLFS has a 7-stack Dark Seal. That is a scary prospect.
Ooh. You know what, Joe? I'm glad you've joined the cult of Dark Seal stacking.
Joined?
It's something which I feel like
I've been talking about Dark Seal stacking since before you were in the LPL.
Well, okay, I'm just saying, Darkseal is like my favorite item in the game. It's one of my favorite minigames stacking these things. I'm glad I am joining you then in this one in regards to this. I'm sure whatever way you had it, we're both
in the long
now.
term is a big enjoyer of Darkseal. Like, there's no two ways about it.
Okay, I'm glad we're both here now, regardless of order of joining this club. Because, yeah, that's going to be really, really important. glfs, if he didn't have that swell seed in any other team fight, I feel you just have to think that IG would have lost that team fight. The fact that he has now, on this Lilia, shown he has a real comfort champion, that's a big thing for IG. I don't think he has been consistently comfortable in all of these series. That Lilia, though, if this continues to be a comfort pick, that is huge news for IG. This is something that they can genuinely rely on to add into their team fights. And once again, just showing how game-changing you can be on that pick. So one more fight like that, you have yourself that Seekers, you have yourself that those extra stats coming through from Darkseal. IG very, very happy with their state in the game after that fight.
So, Baron spawned onto the map and immediately both teams get some wards down there. We've seen more than our fair share of 20-minute Barons across this year. It's been these AP junglers, something that's no longer a fringe option. It's now pretty much meta. So just brute force that if the enemy isn't in the right position. But IG looking good in this one. IG feeling pretty good, I think, with how this series has been going, and especially Vampire must be feeling fantastic with how this one's going. Not only in game one did he get his first MVP of LPL, but against his old team, against the roster that, you know, when he was on it, it really was just a terrible split for EDG. Back in spring, he changed teams. Things are starting to click a little bit for him. Got his first MVP this game, 0-0-6 as well. Fantastic little series for him. Against his old team, you just know it feels good.
Absolutely, you know. Vampire had a rocky start to LPL. Even in this summer, he's had some great flashy moments, some very poor flashy moments too. That's the nature of being a player in the LPL. You have to try and you know, zero in on your big plays. Leave is another player which has had similar situation where he's had the Kaiser dive into death. He's also had himself a huge team fight as well in moments past on the same kind of topic. I will say, compared to that first game, EDG are not on as hard of a timer as they were before. You know, in the last game, felt like eventually the Ziggs combo would just become too hard to deal with. In this one, at least you have an Azir. In this one, at least you have the Ezreal and his 2-item spikes as well. And Ezreal has really risen to priority, and it's very hard to lock him out of a lot of good team fights if you are proficient on the champion. They will have to show us that one. Still think that IG, particularly with that Lilia, they're going to be feeling pretty happy with that. 25 seconds until Dragon, though. You have the 2-item spike on leave with the Muramana completed. Neny will also have his 2-item spike, though, with the Muramana coming online just before this fight. If he wants to teleport in, he'll be a huge damage source. EDG have vision control for this fight, and that can be very, very important, particularly when you have those saplings and you have Jiejie with flash and ultimate ready to start a fight.
Oh, IG, instead of trying to get in the bot side river and contest for the Drake, they've already got 2 Drakes on themselves. Neny's pushing a tier 1 on the top side, and they're clearing vision around this Baron. If there's too much of a commitment from EDG on the bot side, it could be something that's started, and in fact it will be. And that's a TP to the top side for YSKM. They're just pulling the trigger. We talked about 20-minute Barons. I wasn't serious. I didn't expect it to happen. 6k on the purple worm, as here comes Solokill, but Jiejie's nowhere to be seen. IG grab a Baron in trade for 1 Drake. Vampire trying to escape now. The slow's coming on through, the culling onto Wing. Can IG get away with it? Neny may be sacrificed, but that's 4 Baron buffs for 1 single Drake.
Huge mistake from EDG. Just leave your Azir to kill the Dragon at that point. At least he can teleport up, and he has good objective damage. The fact that Jiejie is stuck alone on that bot side means that he can't come in and influence the play. It's another good Baron play for Invictus Gaming. They're playing out their objectives very effectively in this series. They will lose that mid lane turret. They did lose Neny as well, but this is a bit of a blunder here from EDG. Their objective play, their thoughts about how to move across the map have been shown up today. They have not really been on the board and quick enough to these objectives, and now it's left them in a very difficult position where they're going to have to show how much wave clear they've got. I don't know if they can really save all these towers.
Yeah, this tier 1's definitely going down. Cryin needs to be a little cautious with his position there, but knows that he's got Wink on the way. YSKM gets a chance on the bot side as well. Nobody will be here in time, so that will be All 3 tier 1s now conquered for IG. Similar for EDG on the other side, though. We're kind of even in terms of map state, but with that Baron still for another minute and a half, you'd expect IG to want at least a bit more.
Yeah, so, EDG.
Oh, Solokill.
Yeah, Solokill, yeah, they're just falling apart in terms of their map movement. Solokill's got ult in 5 seconds. That is probably too long.
Solokill is going to go down here. Managed to get the slice and dice while asleep. I don't know how he managed to pull that one off, to be honest, but still goes down either way. And I've got to be honest, that is one of the biggest criticisms I've had for EDG. Pretty much the whole split is so often Cryin and Solokill get caught out on these side lanes. It feels like when it comes to the mid game and the late game, this team just really struggles with just keeping the lanes in order, you know, clearing these waves without getting caught, not over pushing. It just feels like it's a constant issue for them.
And it's a culmination of these smaller criticisms, which can be very significant, but all of these criticisms which have led to EDG being in a position where they look good in group stage, but they haven't managed to grow past their flaws. And now here in the Nirvana group, they are currently at 1-3. If they lose this next game, they're at 1-4. At that point, you're very likely going out of contention at the very earliest opportunity. You'll be waiting until 2025. You won't participate in the playoffs. We thought this was meant to be a better split than the spring, the Doom squad of ADG, but it really hasn't, sadly, grown beyond what they've shown in groups, sadly.
And I have to say, when I saw IG trade away Cryin and Wing and pick up the Vampire and lock in previously a top laner from their team that had been training for 1 year as a mid laner in LDL, I did not think, now this is a recipe for success. And granted, they are 1-3, so I'm sure we can say recipe for success right now. But in terms of them going up against the team they traded those players with, so far this series is a monumental success for the team.
Yeah, no, we will need to see beyond this series, beyond this point too, because the IG, they looked, they have definitely struggled in this group as well. Like, we can't necessarily just say this has solved everything this series, and I wonder whether this series is more of a statement of EDG or more of a statement on IG. I've liked map movements from IG. I've really liked how they've approached objectives. I think that is a good step for them. But I need to now see them beyond this series. If they close out this game with a Baron buff like that, it'll definitely help them with that. I need to see them do it against another team after this point there. Trying to check what their next matchup will be after this point. I believe they're facing against RNG, so that's definitely a team which
nice
feels beatable. Well, you say that, well, they won against Ultra Prime, so that's just a whole bunch of things. But then they have to play against WE after that point. I think on that WE series, that's when I really want to revisit IG again and say, okay, is this genuine growth, or is this playing against struggling teams? It can be a bit of both, of course. It's not always all of one or the other. That's going to be really important, because if they want to make it out of Nirvana, they also need to show that they, in the last chance qualifier to get towards those playoffs first, that they will also be a contender there as well.
I will just quickly mention as well, IG also beat Ultra Prime, so I don't... I've stopped considering beating Ultra Prime to be anything worth merit at this stage. They look good during the shenanigans of the placement games, but unfortunately that doesn't really feel like it's converted. The fact that we've got 4 1-3 teams in Group Nirvana is something else. TP down to the bottom side, YSKM. Quite a deep flank here, has been spotted, I think. I don't know if he actually got spotted or if that's just a wary danger pick there. But Drake starts now by IG as leave. True shot barrage, maybe just for some vision. Okay, over the wall here, perhaps a chance for a steal onto the Drake. They're just going to go for the 50-50. Jiejie gets into the pit and gets the dragon, but can EDG survive the fight as well? The needlework going across the team as Arn is sweeping up EDG. Sure, you got the Drake, but everybody dies!
EDG's carries just can't find their positioning. Cryin goes defensive. He can't get the damage which EDG need, and IG around the objectives again to prove they are just better than EDG. 2 World Championship organizations who have fallen on hard times meet together today to find which one can punch down on the other one a little bit harder and keep their hopes alive here in Group Nirvana.
The real question is, was there any pressure to fight right now with only 2 Drakes previously taken by IG? I'm not so sure, but IG will be happy with 2 early game fights ending in aces. IG, an even more confident win in the second game, truly diffing EDG today.
Yeah, I just felt like across the board, EDG just didn't stand up to IG. There were some moments in the early lane from both the first and second games where you thought, okay, well, it looks like Leave and Evans was getting himself that kind of like good ability to play out in that 2v2 alongside Wink. It felt like they could get some moments there, but they didn't build anything out of that. It really felt like IG were just winning on individual levels after a certain point, and that really came to bear in these big objective fights. Their understanding of the map was better than EDG. EDG now at 1-4. We had thought they were a step above Spring. I don't know whether that will be the case now. They are in real Death's Door territory.
1-4 is not the place you want to be, is it? That is, you know, Destiny's out of their hands at this point. They've got to win every game they've got remaining, and then they've just got to hope the rest of the group pans out well. Whereas IG, very much keeping Destiny in their grasp here. 2-3 now, a much healthier scoreline, a much more possible scoreline, and honestly, a pretty good series from them as well. I feel like we're seeing, you know, the fact that they're locking in things like Gwen and getting wins on that, like, I feel like that's